mentioned Brian Shaw and George Karl. So let's transition to the Nuggets right now. Ty Lawson came out in your newspaper talking to your beat reporter, Chris Dempsey, today's paper, and said that he believes, and the team still believes, they have a shot at the playoffs. They're only 5 games out of the 8th spot, and they're playing it. You know, nobody's tanking. Nobody's making vacation plans yet. They believe that they still have a good, legitimate shot at the playoffs.
You finished?
You evidently don't.
I'm sorry, I need a nap after that.
I think he's out of his mind. I think he's insane.
He left out.
Look, he has to talk like that, right? He has to.
He left out one important factor, which I keep bringing up. Yeah, okay, they're 5 games out of the playoffs. They're 11th. They're behind 2 other teams before they get a pass that are better than them.
Got to leapfrog a couple of pretty good teams there.
I should calm it down.
Including Oklahoma City,
but
which is...
every day I look, and there are like 5 teams in one division that are all going to be in the playoffs, and they're all a lot better than them. Then there's 3 teams in another division. Then there's 2 teams above them in their division. That adds up to 10 teams that are ahead of them, and they're not going to pass any of those teams. Those teams are better teams, and they're better coached. End of story. And Ty Lawson, I don't really pay much attention to him.
Look, the Nuggets are 10-8 at home.
Because he thinks he's one of the premier point guards.
Nuggets are very mediocre at home. They're 10-8, which is kind of embarrassing for a Denver Nuggets team.
Oh,
they're 4-12 on the road.
Yeah,
They're a bad road team. So if you figure, the West is really strong. So if a team needs about 50 wins to make the playoffs, just to get the 7th or 8th seed, 50 wins, and the Nuggets right now are 14-20. That means they have to go 36-12 the rest of the way. Is there anything that indicates to you they're capable of going 36-12 the rest of the way?
Well,
or even close to that. Let's say you only need 45 wins.
If they're to have any chance.
31-17.
You're a
Can they go
500 team
31-17?
at home. They're a 500 team at home.
Come on.
You got to win 30 games at home to have any kind of chance. The latest speculation, brouhaha, is that they're going to go get Lance Stevenson. Oh, wow. Oh, Charlotte brought him in and went, boy, this guy's a loser.
Oh, yeah. Well, he's trouble. I mean, they wanted to get rid of him after like 10
Do
games.
you know what? But I will tell you this, as an aside, he was developed into a player by Brian Shaw when Shaw was the assistant.
It could help. You know what? I like the idea because that guy is on the cusp of being an all-star with the right direction. And maybe Brian Shaw can give him the right direction. Because right now, there ain't an all-star on this team.
You're right. And Lance Stevenson, he not only blows kisses, but he blows games, too. So there you go. Well, he did with LeBron. You know that.
That's true. How about Brian? We know how Brian Shaw's going to turn things around now. He's getting rid of the concept of the shoot-around. And for those of you who don't know what a shoot-around is, on game day, the players show up at the gym, at the arena, about 11 or 12 o'clock in the morning, and they shoot. They shoot around, and they get used to the lighting in the arena and the depth perception of the arena and all that. And they work up a little bit of a sweat. Then they get back on the bus and they go back to their hotel. And a lot of them nap in the afternoon, unless you're James Worthy, and then you do other things rather than nap.
I don't know what you
I'll
mean.
Tell you after the show.
Okay, yeah.
These guys know. They're laughing. Anyway,
well, I guess. I mean,
so
it's one of 2 things. Women or alcohol. So
you're on the right track.
Maybe combined.
So instead of making the players wake up early and get them to throw their sweats on and go to the gym earlier than they want, because maybe they were out a little too late at night because they're young men with a lot of money in their pockets and they
DC,
like to go out.
They had a birthday party. Yeah.
Yes. So instead, just get them on the bus at around 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Get them to the arena. And they can warm up, and then they're ready for the game. I don't mind the idea. I kind of like the idea. It makes sense.
I have a new term. I've decided over the holidays. I didn't like. My mother didn't like it either. I call buffalo dung. How's that? That's my new one.
Buffalo dung?
Yeah, rather than saying bullshit.
Okay.
Say buffalo dung.
Works for me.
I call buffalo dung. This started with the Lakers and Jerry West. He had shoot-arounds when he was. And it seems to work well. And
when he was a player or a coach?
Coach.
Okay.
And the idea was to get the players up and get them,
get the juices jangling.
Yeah, right. And you've had a long flight or something, but players would just lay in bed and order room service all day. So this, gave some meaning to the day of the game. And I think if you get there at 3 o'clock, because you and I have gotten into sports events 3 or 4 hours ahead of time because we had to be there or whatever, do broadcast, that by the time the game starts, you're worn out because you're just sitting around doing nothing. Well, they're not going to sit out and practice for 2 hours. No, the idea is time tested, and it works. You get the players up, they have some breakfast, you go over and you shoot some basketballs, you go through the game plan for the night, you look at a little tape, and then you go back to the hotel, they take a nap, and they rest, and they have maybe a pregame kind of snack or sandwich, and then you go to the arena an hour and a half, and you're worked up for the game. Brian Shaw would have gone to Henry Ford and said, here's an idea. Let's don't put an engine in this thing. Let's take birds and put their feathers in it. He has no clue. This has worked in the history of the NBA.
I don't mind it. You know, baseball players, granted they play every day.
Oh, well, that's
baseball
different.
players get there at around 3 p.m. for a 7:00 game. They find ways. They find ways. They take BP. There are some guys that do 5 different
takes
forms
30
of
minutes.
batting practice. They hit off a tee. They hit in the cage outside. They hit in the cage inside.
Are you
they
lying?
do soft
Are you
toss.
lying to
Hold
these
on,
people? You're
hold on.
lying to these people.
Baseball
You know what they
players
do?
practice every single day before the game. Every single day. They take infield. They take outfield.
That really
They
works
run
well.
to warm up.
And then the first time there's a rundown, they don't know where to throw the ball.
I don't have a problem with it. I think it's smart.
He is lying to you people.
What are you talking about?
They get to the ballpark and they read their mail and they sit in front of their locker.
Some of them asleep.
Then they play cards.
Return
and
phone
they play
calls.
cards and they watch ESPN.
True.
And they lay around on those big sofas.
So
talking
why
about
can't
the
NBA
Rockies.
players do that? While practicing here and there and warming up
It's
for the
a big
game.
difference. You know, you've been in thousands of locker rooms. The baseball locker room is bigger, much bigger than the studio.
Yes.
And they got sofas, and the guys are going in and eating. They eat like 4 times. Oh, spaghetti. Oh, yeah, I think I'll eat again. They eat, and then they get on the phone, and they call people, and they're doing stuff. And they're walking around, and they got Playboy magazine, and they take that into the bathroom. Really, I'm not lying. Well, they do. Well, I'm not saying they go in there to read, and that's
Yeah,
about.
sure they do.
They take the sporting news and Playboy magazine in there. Then they go in the training room and they get taped up, and they. And I'm bored. I'm bored just standing there, and I've always had a rule that I don't want to go in the locker room before the game. I don't think writers and journalists and broadcasters should be allowed. Let them do it. Because you see these damn seam heads, and that's what baseball writers are called. And because their whole lives is the on-base percentage. You see these seam heads, and they're standing like they're gawking at naked players. What are you waiting on? Somebody to fart or something? Really? You know the people I'm talking about. You know specifically who I'm talking about.
I go into the clubhouse sometimes before the game.
Oh, I don't want to be in there. That's like walking into somebody's bathroom while they're taking a bath and sitting on the toilet going, hey,
It is kind of weird because it is their sanctuary.
So you
and
don't
here we
go
are
into
standing
you don't go into the
around
football locker room. You don't go into basketball.
No.
You can go into the basketball
Well,
locker
football's
room
a
for little
different
bit.
game.
But it's smaller. The basketball locker room is smaller. They're kind of all, they don't have places to play cards and wander off aimlessly and stuff like that. Have your shoot around, Brian. You're not going to reinvent the wheel. He would have said, oh, round doesn't work. Let me do triangle. Like the offense. I'll do a triangle thing. We'll put it on cards. It's not going to work. It's stupid. Enough of that.
You know what always killed me?
I
You
wanna
mentioned
talk-
eating. Wait, you mentioned eating before the game. The athletes. What always just killed me about baseball was, and this is lends to the idea that they have the strongest union in the history of the world. Baseball players have average salaries of something like there's somewhere around $3.5 million these days.
Average,
an
yeah.
average salary. And when they go on the road, they get a per diem to pay for food. They get like $115 a day to eat on the road, but the team feeds them before and after the game. So all they do is pocket the money.
All they do is
crazy.
eat. They eat all the time. They're eating all the time before and after the game. I don't have time to talk to you. I got to go get more food. Yeah, because you haven't eaten since you were in the bullpen eating 3 hot dogs that you ordered from a guy in the outfield from you.
A vendor.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Oh, you want- you-
I know. I had my per diem at one point with a newspaper was like $10, which meant okay, an egg McMuffin, fish sandwich at lunch, and maybe you could get fries with that at dinner. Yeah, so don't talk to me about $110.
right.
You could eat at Shanahan's every meal for $110.